Hello everyone, I wish you peace and happiness. Are you all healthy? Today, I will continue to share with you the difficult, impoverished and struggling days of Huyen and her mother as they try to make a living. In the morning, gentle sunlight begins to filter through the bamboo slats of the small house. I woke up early, sitting by the fire to light the stove and prepare breakfast. The dry firewood crackles softly, thin smoke rises from the stove, then leisurely escapes through the roof, blending into the fresh morning air. After a while, Micah also woke up. I smiled at the girl and called her to go to the garden and pick some water spinach with Uncle. Micah happily nodded and ran after me to the front of the house. The small garden still glistened with early dew. I bent down to pick the tender green water spinach, while Micah stood beside me helping to gather and put the vegetables into a small basket. The laughter and chatter of the two of us echoed through the quiet garden. Inside the small bamboo house at the back, the smoke from the stove gently rose, signaling the start of another simple morning. I took the small pot and went to the ditch in front of the house to wash it clean. Micah also ran along quickly, sitting down beside Da to help pick the water spinach stems just harvested. The two of them worked and chatted. The morning atmosphere by the ditch was very peaceful. After washing the pot, Da took it into the house. Micah sat nearby washing the vegetables, her small hands carefully picking out each yellowed leaf. Da held the pot, scooped water into it, and placed it on the stove. He bent down to gather the burning pieces of firewood, and soon the flames flared up, the crackling sound of burning wood echoing inside the small bamboo house. I gently picked up the basket of morning glory vegetables just harvested from the garden, removing the yellowed leaves and rinsing each bunch in cool water. I stirred the vegetables to wash away all the dirt and sand, then lifted them out to drain in the basket. A sudden cough woke Huyen from her sleep. She lay on the bed, holding her chest with her hand, trying to sit up while continuous coughing echoed through the small bamboo house. Micah was playing when she heard her mother cough. The girl immediately stopped, looking worried, and hurriedly ran into the house. "Mom!" Micah quickly grabbed a glass, poured water, and brought it to the bedside. She handed the glass to Huyen, her voice full of concern. "Drink some water, Mom." Huyen looked at her daughter, her eyes softening. She gently took the glass from Micah's small hands and sipped the water. The water in the pot was boiling vigorously. I took a basket of washed water spinach and dropped it into the pot. He used chopsticks to stir a few times to ensure the vegetables cooked evenly, then quickly took the vegetables out and set them aside in a colander. Next, I added a few bundles of noodles into the boiling water. After waiting a moment for the noodles to soften, I added the boiled water spinach back into the pot and stirred a few times. When the noodles and vegetables were cooked, I took the pot off the stove. The aroma of noodles and water spinach gently filled the small bamboo house, signaling that a simple breakfast was ready. Da took the dry medicinal herb bag that he had previously gone up the mountain to pick for Huyen. He opened the bag, took out handfuls of herbs, and put them into the pot, gently rinsing them with water to clean off the dirt. After rinsing, he scooped more water into the pot, covered it, and placed it on the stove. The bright red flame burned beneath the pot, and the crackling of firewood echoed in the small bamboo house. Da sat by the stove, occasionally glancing toward the bed where Huyen was resting. He only hoped that this medicinal brew would help her stop coughing and feel better. Da carefully places the pot of freshly cooked noodles onto a bamboo tray, then takes 3 bowls and a pair of chopsticks, arranging them neatly. He carefully carries the tray of food into the bamboo bed. Da sits down, scoops a bowl for Micah, then a bowl for Huyen, and finally his own. The warm steam rises from the bowls of noodles, fragrant and gentle, with green water spinach mixed among soft noodles. Micah sits close to her mother, holding chopsticks and eating small bites. Huyen gently smiles at her daughter, while Da sits opposite, eating and watching the two women. In the small bamboo house, the three of them share a simple breakfast, the soft sounds of conversation blending with the crackling of fire outside the stove. Da looked at Huyen sitting beside him and gently asked, and quote, How do you feel today? Are you better yet? End quote. Huyen softly smiled and nodded and quote, I and Oppos am much better now. End quote. Hearing that, De felt more reassured. He stood up, took some noodles from the pot, placed them into a small bowl and brought it to Pippi. End quote. Pippi, eat up. End quote. Pippi obediently approached, bowed down and ate the noodles one by one. De watched for a moment before going back inside. Seeing Huyen carrying a tray of dishes, ready to wash them, De quickly stepped forward to help. End quote. Let me wash them. You and Oppos, still weak, don't do heavy work. End quote. Saying that, De gently took the tray from Huyen and Oppos' hands. He went to the small stream in front of the house, sat by the water's edge, and one by one washed the bowls, chopsticks, and the pot. Huyen stood at the door watching, feeling both guilty and warm inside from De's care. Micah shyly followed me to the ditch in front of the house. Seeing Uncle sitting and washing dishes, the girl approached quietly and said, end quote, Uncle, let me wash for you. End quote. I turned to look at Micah, smiled and shook my head. End quote. No, let Uncle wash. You and Oppos, still young, how can you wash? Go inside and sit with Mom. End quote. Micah obediently nodded and went back into the house. Seeing Huyen sitting on a bamboo chair, the girl ran over and took her mother and Oppos' hand. End quote. Mom, go lie down and rest. End quote. Micah carefully helped Huyen step by step toward the bamboo bed. Huyen smiled gently and sat down on the bed. De stepped beside the bamboo bed, looked at Huyen and gently said, I have prepared a pot of medicine for you. I and Oppos, LL go get the medicine. Saying that, De went to the kitchen. He carefully lifted the steaming pot, poured a bowl of medicine, and sat down to blow on it gently to cool it down. When he saw the medicine was just the right temperature, De brought the bowl to the bedside and handed it to Huyen. Huyen took the bowl with both hands. She leaned down and blew gently, then slowly sipped small amounts. The bitter taste of the medicine spread in her mouth, but Huyen still tried to finish it. De sat quietly beside her, watching her, hoping she would recover soon. De gently placed his hand on Huyen and Oppos' forehead, feeling that her forehead was cooler than before. He smiled softly, feeling somewhat reassured. Huyen looked at Da and softly said, end quote, Thank you for helping my mother and me these past days. We and Oppos, caused you so much trouble. End quote. De shook his head and smiled and quote, It and Oppos nothing really. You should lie down and rest to get better. End quote. Then De gently helped Huyen lie down on the bamboo bed. He pulled a thin blanket over her and adjusted the pillow to be straight before standing up. Micah sat beside, watching her mother rest, feeling more at ease. De went to the corner of the kitchen, took the bag of dried medicinal leaves that he had previously picked from the mountain for Huyen. He carried the bag of herbs out in front of the house, poured the dried leaves onto a bamboo tray, and then spread each handful of leaves evenly with his hand. Afterwards, De placed the tray on a bamboo chair in front of the porch to dry in the sun. After finishing, De put his hand into his shirt pocket and took out the remaining money to check. There was only a 10,000 dong note left. He stood silently for a moment, then looked up at the roof. A large gap still remained there, where the dried coconut leaves had torn after the storm the day before. Whenever it rained, water could still leak through that gap into the house. De looked at the money in his hand, silently contemplating for a long time. This small amount of money was not enough to repair the roof, but it was all he had left. Finally, De sighed, folded the bill, and tucked it into his shirt pocket. He turned around and stepped inside, returning to the bamboo bed where Huyen and Micah were resting. De sat beside the bamboo bed, gently holding Huyen and Oppos' hand. He looked at her and said, end quote, You and your mother rest at home. I have some errands to run, I will be back in the afternoon. End quote. Huyen nodded softly. De turned to look at Micah and said, end quote, Micah, stay well at home and remember to look after your mother. End quote. Micah obediently nodded, end quote, Yes, I understand. End quote. De stood up and stepped out of the bamboo house. When he reached the door, he suddenly paused, looked inside one more time. Huyen was still resting on the bed, and Micah was sitting beside her mother. De sighed softly and turned to leave. His shadow gradually disappeared behind the trees in front of the house, leaving the small bamboo house immersed in the quiet of the afternoon. De sat on the old motorcycle, started the engine, and rode along the long road towards the river. The village road stretched out before him, flanked by fields and rows of green trees. De silently rode on, still thinking about Huyen and Micah at home. When he reached the ferry pier, he drove onto the ferry and parked his bike neatly. The ferry slowly moved away from the shore, taking him across the river. Standing in the vast water, De looked into the distance, hoping to earn some money this afternoon to bring home. When the ferry reached the other side, De drove off and continued to a nearby clam factory. Upon arrival, he parked outside, entered inside, and politely asked for a job. End quote. Sir, do you need workers here? I want to apply for a job. I can do any kind of work. End quote. The factory owner looked at De for a moment and then nodded. De was delighted, quickly rolled up his sleeves, and prepared to start work. He only hoped to earn a little more money to take care of Huyen, Micah, and to repair the damaged roof. At home, Micah took the dirty clothes and put them into a small basin. She held a scoop and scooped water from the jar to pour into the basin. Then Micah sat down on the porch and started scrubbing each piece of clothing. Her tiny hands skillfully dipped the clothes into the water and gently rubbed the dirty spots. The task was somewhat difficult for a child, but Micah patiently continued, occasionally glancing into the house where Huyen and Appo's mother was resting on the bamboo bed. De quickly got to work at the clam factory. He bent down, carrying each heavy bag of clams, trying his best to bring them close to the machine. Then, De lifted the bag and poured the clams into the machine to start the processing stage. Below, other workers sat in a row, carefully selecting and sorting each clam. The sound of machinery blending with conversations echoed throughout the workshop. De continued to return to the gathering spot, dragging each heavy bag of clams toward the machine. Sweat began to soak through his shirt, and his hands gradually grew tired, but De kept working without stopping. He only hoped to do his best to earn some money so he could return in the afternoon with Huyen and Micah. Seeing another area in the workshop that was short of workers, De quickly stepped in to help. In front of him were piles of clams stacked high, next to large bags that other workers had already opened. De bent down, using both hands to scoop each basket of clams and pour them into the bags. The heavy work quickly made his hands numb and his shirt soaked with sweat. Each full bag was moved aside, and De continued to bend down and scoop more baskets of clams. Despite the hard work, De kept going without stopping. He tried to do as much as possible, hoping to earn some money in the afternoon to support Huyen and Micah. After doing the laundry, Micah took each piece one by one and hung them on the bamboo fence to dry. She carefully straightened the clothes. Seeing that there was still some clean water left in the basin, Micah didn't and Appo's pour it out but tried to carry the basin to the small garden. Her tiny hands tightly held the edge of the basin, and she slowly walked to the vegetable beds. When she arrived, Micah used a small scoop to draw water, and evenly watered each bunch of green vegetables. The droplets of water made the soil more moist. After watering, the girl stood and looked at the garden for a moment, then smiled, and then went back inside to be with her mother. De still diligently works in the clam workshop. He completes each stage and then moves on to the next. Whenever he sees a spot short of workers, De quickly helps out, unafraid of hard work. Sometimes he holds a water hose and sprays evenly over the clams to wash them clean. After finishing, De hurriedly runs to another area, sits down with everyone to select and sort the clams. After a while, seeing that the machine is short of people, De stands up and runs over. He bends down to carry heavy crates of clams, using all his strength to lift and pour them into the machine. In this way, De works tirelessly, Sweat soaks through his shirt, and his hands and shoulders gradually grow tired, but he still tries his best. In Do and Apo's mind, only Huyen, Micah, and the small bamboo house waiting for him to return. After finishing work, Do received his payment and quickly left the clam workshop. He got on his old motorcycle, started the engine, and headed back to the ferry pier. Upon arrival, Do drove onto the ferry, stood silently watching the river as the ferry slowly carried everyone to the other side. His only wish was to return soon to the small bamboo house where Huyen and Micah were waiting. When the ferry docked, Do paid the ferry owner and drove down to the shore. He accelerated, following the familiar road toward home. The evening shadows gradually lengthened, but Do hurried back to be with his two mothers. After running a long distance, I stopped my bike in front of a small traditional medicine shop by the road. I parked my bike neatly and then went inside. Upon seeing the herbalist, I politely greeted, "Hello, sir." Then I sat down and recounted Huyen and Apo's health situation, mentioning the day she had coughs, her weakened body, and the recent period of treatment. I looked at the herbalist with a worried voice. "Please help me, can you prescribe a few nourishing herbal remedies for her? I just hope that after taking the medicine, she will be healthier." Hearing my words, the herbalist listened quietly to the whole story and nodded. I sat waiting inside the shop, my eyes still full of thought, just hoping to bring good herbal medicines back for Huyen. Micah went to the corner of the kitchen, where the warm medicine that Da had boiled this morning still remained. The girl carefully poured the medicine into a small bowl. Then with both hands, she lifted the bowl and slowly carried it into the house. Upon reaching the bamboo bed, Micah climbed up and sat next to her mother. She took a small spoon, scooped up the medicine, and gently fed Huyen. Huyen looked at her daughter with a loving gaze. She gently stroked Micah and Apo's hair and then leaned down to kiss her. "My little Micah is so clever." Hearing her mother and Apo's praise, Micah smiled. Then, Huyen took the bowl of medicine herself and slowly finished the remaining medicine. Micah still sat beside her, quietly watching her mother, hoping she would recover soon. The healer stood beside the medicine table, taking each type of herb in turn and dividing them into appropriate portions. After checking the herbs again, he carefully packed them into small bundles, arranged them neatly, and handed them to Da. The healer advised, "Each time you take a bundle, put it into the teapot, add water, and decoct it for the specified time. Remember to watch the fire and Don and Apo's tea, let the medicine run out." Da listened attentively and nodded, "Yes, I remember, sir." He took the bundles, took the money from his pocket, handed it to the healer and politely said, "Thank you, sir." After that, Da carried the medicine bag in his hand, turned around and left the shop. He put on his hat, got on his motorbike, and prepared to go home, only hoping that Huyen would take the medicine and become healthier each day. On his way home, Da passed by a small bun cha shop on the street. Thinking that Huyen and Micah had been at home since morning, he quickly pulled into the shop. Da parked his bike and went inside, ordering a serving of bun cha with grilled meat. After a moment, the shop owner carefully packed the bun cha into a bag for him. Da paid the owner and received the food back. "Thank you, Ma and Apo's, he said, then carried the bun cha bag onto his bike, started the engine, and continued riding toward Huyen and Apo's house. In his hand was a fragrant bag of grilled meat, and Da only hoped to get home quickly so that mother and daughter could enjoy a better dinner than usual. When Huyen finished taking her medicine, Micah carefully took the bowl and carried it to the corner of the kitchen. She scooped water from the jar, sat down, and washed the bowl thoroughly. Once done, Micah placed the bowl on the shelf and ran to the bamboo bed. She reached out her small hand to touch her mother and Apo's forehead and asked anxiously, "Mom, are you feeling less tired?" Huyen looked at her daughter, smiled softly, and then hugged Micah into her arms. "Mom is better now, dear." Micah obediently sat beside her, gently squeezed her small hands on her mother and Apo's legs and then massaged her mother and Apo's hands. Huyen lay quietly on the bed, watching her little daughter care for her, feeling both love and warmth in her heart. Feeling that her body was healthier, Huyen gradually sat up and then stood up. She held a bamboo broom and gently swept the floor. Micah sat beside her watching her mother, and before she could say anything, a motorbike sounded outside the gate. Da had just arrived at the porch carrying 2 bags of items. Seeing Huyen still sweeping the house, he quickly stepped inside, raised the 2 bags and cheerfully said, end quote, I bought some health supplements and grilled bun cha. Let and Apos eat together. End quote. After saying that, Da took the 2 bags into the kitchen and neatly placed them on the table. Turning around, he saw Huyen still holding the broom, so he gently approached and took the broom from her hand. End quote, you and Apos, still tired, let me do it. Rest and take care of yourself. End quote. Huyen looked at Da, nodded softly, and then returned to the bamboo bed. Da continued sweeping the house, and the small home echoed with the simple sounds of an afternoon. Da gently took Micah and Apos' hand. Let and Apos' go wash our hands before eating. The 2 of them sat in front of a water jar. Da scooped water, washed both hands thoroughly, then helped Micah wash her hands carefully. Micah extended her small hands, rubbed them under the flowing water, then dried them. After washing her hands, Da turned to the bamboo tray that had been drying medicinal leaves since morning. He brought the tray closer, took a plastic bag and carefully collected the dried leaves into it. Da tied the bag tightly, took it to the corner of the kitchen and stored it carefully. Da took the bamboo tray on the stove, opened the bag of grilled pork and noodles just purchased, and carefully arranged the food on the tray. He then neatly placed the bowls and chopsticks beside it, preparing a dinner for the whole family. After that, Da sat down, took out the health supplement bags he had just bought from the traditional medicine shop. He opened each packet and checked them carefully. Huyen saw this and immediately stepped over to sit beside him, gently asking, do you need my help with anything? Huyen picked up a bag of medicine, brought it close to smell and smiled. The medicine smells very good, dear. Da looked at Huyen, his voice gentle. I bought several herbal prescriptions for you. Take them regularly to regain your strength quickly. Huyen nodded softly, her eyes full of gratitude. Micah sat beside her, also curious, looking at the medicine packets. Da sat beside the stove, carefully taking each medicinal herb from the healer and Apos' packages and placing them into the teapot. When he saw that there was still a small amount of medicine left in the bag, Huyen took the bag and gently poured the remaining herbs into the teapot. Da scooped water to fill the teapot, covered it with a lid, and then placed the teapot on the stove. He bent down to add more firewood, and the flames quickly flared up beneath the teapot. The steam began to rise, and the herbs gradually blended into the water. Da sat beside the stove watching the fire while Huyen stood nearby, looking at him, feeling warm inside from Da and Apos' attentive care. Da brought the tray of grilled pork noodles into the house, neatly placed on the bamboo bed. He took 3 bowls, serving the noodles and pork for Micah, Huyen, and himself in turn. Then Da added a piece of fragrant grilled meat for each person. Come on, eat, mother and daughter. Today I bought grilled pork noodles for the whole family to enjoy. Micah happily picked up her chopsticks, her eyes shining as she looked at the piece of grilled meat in her bowl. Huyen also smiled softly, sitting close to her daughter. The 3 of them sat around the bamboo tray, eating and chatting. The aroma of grilled meat mingled with the warmth of the small house. I saw that there was still delicious grilled meat in the basket, and he picked it up intending to put it into Huyen and Apos' bowl. At that moment, Huyen also gently picked up a piece of meat with her chopsticks and placed it into Da and Apos' bowl. The 2 of them froze for a moment, looked at each other. After a brief surprise, both of them smiled. Eat it. Huyen also softly said, you eat it. De looked at the piece of meat in his bowl and then at Huyen, a smile still on his lips. Micah sitting beside them witnessed this scene and also burst into laughter, her eyes sparkling with joy. In the small bamboo house, amidst a simple meal without elaborate words, the care they showed for each other was enough to make the atmosphere warmer. After finishing eating, Huyen was about to carry the dishes outside when De hurriedly stepped forward to stop her. And quote, "I and Oppos am still tired, just rest and get well. Let me wash them." End quote. Saying that, De carried the tray of dishes to the small canal in front of the house. He sat down by the water and Oppos' edge, washing each plate, pair of chopsticks and the pot in turn. Huyen didn't and Oppos' feel comfortable letting De do it alone, so she carried a bamboo chair over and sat nearby in the garden. It was almost evening now, the sunlight gradually dimming behind the trees. Huyen looked at Da and gently said, and quote, "It and Oppos' almost night. You should go home, I can wash them tomorrow." End quote. Da still bent over washing the plate in his hand, smiling as he replied, and quote, "No, I and Oppos' I'll finish washing quickly. You just sit and rest." End quote. Huyen silently watched him. The sound of water flowing in the small canal combined with the gentle clinking of dishes created a simple evening in this small bamboo house. The medicinal tea on the stove was ready. De turned down the heat and carefully poured the tea into a bowl. He placed the teapot back on the stove, then carried the bowl of tea to where Huyen was sitting in the garden. De stood beside her, gently blowing on the bowl to cool the tea before handing it to Huyen. The tea was still hot, so she sipped it slowly. Huyen took the bowl, blew on it a few more times and then drank small sips. De sat quietly beside her, watching her until he was sure she could take the medicine. Outside it was gradually getting dark, and a gentle breeze swayed the vegetable beds in the garden. The late afternoon sunlight bathed the small bamboo house, making the scene even more peaceful. Micah saw her mother taking medicine and immediately ran over to her, looking up and saying, and quote, "Let me feed you the medicine." End quote. The girl sat close to Huyen, carefully holding a small spoon. Micah scooped each spoonful of medicine, blew gently to cool it down, and then fed it to her mother. Huyen obediently drank each spoon, her eyes full of love for her daughter. De sat beside them, smiling happily as he watched the mother and daughter care for each other. He gently stroked Huyen and Oppos' hair and softly said, and quote, "I see you and Oppos' we lost a lot of weight lately. Try to take your medicine and nourish yourself back." End quote. Huyen nodded softly. Micah patiently scooped each spoonful of medicine, blew it to cool, and fed it to her mother. In the fading evening light, the three sat in the small garden, feeling the peace after days of hardship. After Huyen finished taking her medicine, De stood up and went inside the house to get some food for Pippi. He brought it out and placed it in front of the dog, then sat down and stroked Pippi and Oppos' fur. Pippi obediently lay beside Da and Oppos' feet, its tail gently wagging. The three of them, along with Pippi, sat on the empty patch of land in front of the house. The sky was already dimming, with the last rays of the evening only flickering behind the trees. A gentle breeze blew through the vegetable beds, carrying the scent of earth and plants. Micah sat close to her mother, while De sat beside her, petting Pippi. The three looked at each other and smiled together. After a long, tiring day, the small bamboo house still echoed with simple laughter. There was nothing precious out there, but at this moment all three of them, along with Pippi, felt truly happy and joyful. Another day closed in the warmth of family love and peaceful moments together. If everyone loves Huyen and Micah and Oppos' mother, please subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell, and leave a word of encouragement for the two of them to see the next developments. Every follow and every loving comment from everyone will be a source of comfort and strength to help Huyen get through difficult times. Thank you all very much.